Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my first podcast. My name is Ben, and I have struggled with alcohol addiction more than 10 years. And a bit more than 2 years ago, I finally decided to completely stop drinking alcohol. And I have to say the past 2 years have been pretty amazing just because of this one single decision. And if by sharing my own experience and my own struggles, I get to help at least one person, then my mission is accomplished. That's why I'm doing this, and that's why I'm doing this podcast today with my very special guest, which I will introduce very shortly. But firstly, I just want to express a bit of a gratitude. Firstly, many thanks to Luka Maciek, who's behind these cameras, making sure that we can deliver this podcast in the best manner possible. Secondly, big thanks to Klemen Selakovic, because he's been kind enough to actually let me record this podcast in his own podcast studio. So really big thanks to you, Klemen. And for any Slovenian-speaking people listening to this podcast, please make sure to check him out. He's literally the best Slovenian podcaster out there. And no, I'm not getting paid to say this. It's just my honest opinion. And last but not least, I would like to express gratitude to a very special man. And I actually have to read this because it's quite a long thing to read. So this man is a doctor of civil law and a full professor of commercial, transport, and insurance law with extensive experience in management and politics. He was a minister of transport of the Republic of Slovenia, and he was a vice president of the Parliament of the Republic of Slovenia. He is an author and co-author of more than 40 books and hundreds of scientific and other articles. He has been sober and alcohol-free for more than 5 years now. He is my hero, my role model, my friend. He's my dad. What's up, Dad?
Oh, what's up? Oh, you're going to make me cry. But thank you so much for this beautiful introduction. And if I may say so, it is it is impossible to have a great honor and also to be happy more when you are invited by your son, your child, to such an important event and to contribute to his very important endeavors to help other people. And I would also like to express my thanks to Klemen and Luka. It's wonderful to be back in the studio. I was here already twice and had a wonderful experience with Klemen. And I fully agree with Ben that Klemen is the best podcaster in Slovenia. But now it's our turn. And I only hope that as an old fart, if I may use this expression, but this podcast will not be censored. So I'm going to forget about all the limits in the classroom and in the politics and so on. I'll try to be myself. This is one of the mission statements when it came to the upbringing my children, to be honest, to be sincere, or to use a modern expression, to be legit, whatever you do. So let us do our best.
Indeed, yeah. Thank you very much for being here. And I have to say that I think it's a privilege to have a father like yourself, because I truly believe that I can talk anything or everything. I can discuss everything with you. And that's why you're also here today, because we can openly share about our own struggles with alcohol. We don't need to shy away of anything. So really, I'm really happy that we're doing this. And just as a disclaimer, before we completely jump in, obviously, me and my dad, we're both Slovenians, so we're used to speaking Slovenian to each other. So I have to say it's a bit weird right now to speak English with you. Nevertheless, we have spoken English quite a lot in our own separate lives, but let's see what comes out of this podcast. We have nothing to lose, let's
No,
say.
nothing. And I apologize in advance that I'm still recovering for a flu.
Yeah.
So my voice is a bit rusty, if that's the right word. But I'll try to manage through it, and if nothing else, I'll stop talking from my mouth and I will let open my heart even more,
Yeah.
if you will be able to
First,
hear.
I thought you're going to say that you're going to start like opening by farting, but hopefully not. So, obviously, I want to keep this podcast as natural as possible. So, let's go with the flow. Let's see where we go. But obviously, I do have some questions prepared here just as a guideline. But obviously, I think also for the audience that maybe do not know your story, because I think a lot of people in Slovenia actually do know a bit of your story, but not specifically to alcohol, right? So I would just like to first ask you a question about if you still remember when was actually the first time you actually tasted alcohol? When was the first time you actually got then drunk? And if you can just discuss how your drinking progressed through your youth into your early stages of being, let's say, young adult.
Oh my gosh, so many questions
Yeah.
to fill in 10 podcasts, I guess. And perhaps we should even underline that we didn't prepare for this podcast. Like I would have some written notes, just some thoughts in my head. But otherwise, we wanted to be as spontaneous as possible. And I remember I probably had my first drink when I was like, 9, 10. Because not only in our family, but also in Slovenia as such, or in this part of the world, or shall I say in Europe, alcohol is treated to be something like almost like food or water. It is there. It is not considered to be a drug, unfortunately. So we are in a very, what we call, I think this is even the official expression, wet culture.
Mm-hmm.
So alcohol was always present in my family and at our relatives and elsewhere. So when, for example, we had friends to visit us and so on, I remember myself when there was the end of the party and elder people left, I was actually stealing some alcohol left on the tables, just finish
How
up the
old were you
drink.
at that time?
Like 9, 10, I guess,
Okay.
or even younger.
Yeah.
Then we had and still have relatives in northeast part of Slovenia, Steierska. And whenever we went there, especially with my granddad, who also had quite severe problems with alcohol, but he had a reason to, because after the Second World War, he was put by the communist regime in prison for almost 5 years. He never really recovered psychologically from this experience.
Yeah.
But of course, he drank a lot and he died when he was 63. But I loved him a lot. And whenever we went to this Steierska, well, of course, he wouldn't mind if I had a sip of alcohol whenever he was having one. And then also other relatives, members of the family. For example, sometime his brother would take me to the cellar, and when he was filling in a bottle of wine, homemade wine, there was a special tube for that. And of course, I could be the one, taking the wine from the cask and putting in a bottle. And of course, some people still do that. This is how they steal oil for gas, for cars and so on. But that was, shall I say, almost normal by Slovenian standards. Perhaps somewhere in other parts of the world would be already a heresy, to do something like that. But in our case, it was normal. The first time I got drunk was probably at the end of primary school. I was always an excellent student. I even couldn't really use this word when I was 10, 13, 14 years old. So I was like a pupil, right? So straight A's, and I was the one being admired by teachers, not really by my peers.
Yeah.
So I remember myself when we had this kind of a farewell party. We went to the coast, nearby one of the Slovenian rivers. And at that time, I was already playing a guitar. So I impressed my peers for the first time positively that I'm not only a good, well-behaved child, but that I can play a little bit of guitar, and then that I'm not afraid to drink some beer. So that was the first time. But I don't really remember whether or not I was really drunk. I remember that we went there by bicycle, so of course no driving involved. But then later on, at the secondary school, I changed a lot because of my adolescence years. So I realized that alcohol is, I'm trying to avoid politically incorrect words, but nevertheless I will use them, that alcohol is a wonderful key to open all kind of doors, not only of perception, but of course social doors.
Yeah.
So when I started drinking, I became more courageous with respect to girls. I could be much more relaxed to flirt, to talk to them. And then, of course, to certain point of the quantity of alcohol, even my playing the guitar and singing was getting better.
Yeah.
Up to a certain point, of course.
Also talking to girls up to a certain point. Yeah.
Also talking to girls. So I could really admit that some heavy drinking was going on throughout the secondary school for years. Although I was attending the quite elite secondary school, Bežigrajska gimnazija, for those who are Slovenian listeners.
You still had A plus grades, or
no? My grades dropped.
Okay.
Not dramatically. They dropped from A to like C, something between C and B. I never failed. But of course, my parents were disappointed, but they didn't give me too much hard time. They took my growing up as a part of the normal family matters. Of course, I grew my hair longer, and I tried desperately to look like Bob Dylan, for example. I started writing my own poems and so on. And that was going on until I was 18 and something, where I had to join the army for 1 year. Mm-hmm. That was compulsory during the former times of the former Yugoslavia. For those who are not coming from Slovenia, just to tell you that Slovenia used to be part of the federal country, which was quite well renowned within the world, Yugoslavia. But then in 91, Yugoslavia collapsed, the war started, and Slovenia was luckily enough one of, basically the only country which was affected by the war just for 10 days. And then we became independent, and since then we are a completely independent state. Okay, at that time, I had to serve the army, which was actually the army which attacked Slovenia in 91, because it was a federal army. But the federal army used to be controlled by predominantly Serbian military, also some others. So army for all those young people were actually a very good exercise. Of course, we didn't have time to drink. Well, occasionally when we were let out, for a couple of hours to enjoy in the city some freedom. So I came back, I could say, mature, ready to study law. And I don't really remember that I had any difficulties, at least to my knowledge, with alcohol. But then again, studying, not only law, but whatever you study, this new period of life brings, again, other disadvantages, which at the beginning they appear to be advantages, and one of them, of course, is drinking. Again, it starts like a social thing. You go out, you become more relaxed. This is how you get new friends, new girls, whatever. And
side question, has it ever occurred to you during your student years, because obviously not during high school, but during student years, that you might have an issue with that, or it was still like completely normal and something that everyone would be doing, and you didn't feel weird about your drinking at all?
It occurred to me during each and every hangover. Because hangovers that I drank too much last night, and said, well, but on the other hand, it happens usually just once a week. So that was my excuse. Yes, that's the right word, excuse. But it happens really at least once a week, to be honest. Mm-hmm. Maybe less when I was studying for the exams and some other serious projects, but otherwise, yes, it was going on. But then everybody was doing it more or less.
Yeah, of course.
I don't remember anybody who would abstain from alcohol from that period of life. No.
Yeah,
it was non-existent.
You're basically an outcast, a
But
weirdo.
I remember once there was a quite popular magazine, especially for ladies, but also for men, because I remember there was a chapter, a special section when people would send all kind of questions, and sometimes the questions were quite sexually orientated, and also the replies. So I very much enjoyed reading that.
Yeah,
I found it very exciting. And one of the questions I still vividly remember, I was probably around 20, was that a girl was complaining that her boyfriend gets drunk once a week, usually on Friday evenings, and otherwise he's okay, he's a good person, he's working hard and so on. And he was asking whether or not he has a problem with alcohol.
Yeah.
And the reply was quite shocking to me. It was yes. I strongly recommend. And the person who was actually explaining that was probably the best alcohol expert. I don't know. It's difficult to say. I don't know what's the official word, alcohologist or whatever, somebody who was the first one. I'm talking about Dr. Janez Rugal, again, for those who are coming from Slovenia. He developed a very radical method, which is still quite in effect, and it helps people how to stop drinking. I mean, he would be involved in the whole family. He would involve sport, sometimes to extreme levels, and reading, and obtaining additional education, and so on and so forth. So his reply by the famous Dr. Rugal was, please send your boyfriend ASAP to my office to see how I can really help him. He's an alcoholic. So I said, my God.
Maybe that was part also of the marketing. It's like, come spend some money on me.
It could be, yes.
But no.
So, I was maybe worried for like 10 minutes,
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, it was like, okay, forget about it. I'm not really exaggerating. I'm not really that drunk once a week. It just I'm in a good mood,
Exactly, yeah.
Speaking of parents, my father was always very much against it. So he wouldn't be happy seeing me. I'm talking until 18. After 18, he became very flexible regarding alcohol. So I even remember having a drink or two together with my friends and so on.
Yeah.
Whereas my mother, your grandma, was very tolerant, probably because of her father.
Yeah.
So she would never, ever say anything to me or to my younger brother regarding heavy drinking or hangovers and so on, which in a way is bad, And sometimes our friends, my friends, were very impressed of my parents also because of that. They came to our house and they were given an alcohol, some wine, even some heavy stuff, schnapps, as we call it in Slovenian language. I think it's already international expression.
It is.
It's
a German expression.
It's a German expression, exactly. Which is not good, because nobody really tells you that, as you like to say, that alcohol is not different to any other drug. It is drug.
Yeah.
I
would argue that it's even the worst drug there.
Yes, because it's freely available.
No, but also the fact okay, you see that in news, right? But rarely you see in news that someone high on heroin will go into a car and he's gonna kill with his car accident 5 innocent people. Rarely. While on alcohol, you hear it all the time. Or rarely you will also hear that someone high on heroin is gonna cause domestic violence. Of course, it happens. But compared to alcohol, it's happening very rarely, right? So in that case, I think it's one of these drugs that you're being super harmful to yourself, but also to others. So, yeah.
So maybe to go back to finish my story.
Yeah, sorry.
Because it's important to come to the point when I started realizing that something was wrong, that I had a problem. Well, I finished law school, again, with the best marks possible. I was a student. And then I met my wife. We started dating. And she would never really ever complain about my heavy drinking, because somehow after finishing the law school, and then I got my first job and the second one and so on, first of all, I didn't have money, to buy alcohol. I was, 25, 26 when I started living on my own. I left home and, I took quite a few jobs, which was exploring the market, so to speak. And then I got a scholarship from the Canadian government. So we moved to Canada for 3 years and a half. And Canada, again, was a wonderful experience, but also very painful at the beginning, because I got a scholarship which was meant for one person only, but we were two, just freshly married. But after the first year, everything went much better. Then in 92, our daughter was born, Gaia, your sister. And because of the problems in the former Yugoslavia, Slovenia became independent. And then in 92, our daughter was born. We were considering the possibility that we would actually stay in Canada for good. And at that time, unless we were invited to friends, some important and also rich friends, I wouldn't have a drink. I remember the first year, we could afford 1 bottle of beer per week. One bottle of beer, and we shared it.
Yeah,
per week.
It's impossible to have alcohol addiction with this. Yeah,
exactly. It was a very healthy way to live. Yes, and then afterwards, of course, whenever I had an opportunity, because I was invited to home, I treated myself a good Scotch, single malt, whatever I was offered. But then again, that would happen maybe once or twice a month. So nothing serious. Until we came back home at the end of 92, and I got a the first serious job after having, obtaining my PhD and Canadian experience and so on. So I got a job at the leading Slovenian reinsurance company. Why I'm emphasizing this? Because insurance business, perhaps like many other businesses, but is quite well known for drinking.
Oh, really?
It is.
Oh, I didn't know
because
that.
it is pretty much London-based.
Uh-huh.
So
Okay,
whenever
makes sense now.
I spend many weeks, for example, to obtain additional training and experience in London City.
Experience.
That's
Yeah.
right. And I remember, for example, I was going with insurance and reinsurance brokers to Lloyd's and some other companies, and that was before lunch. And then, of course, every day they would invite me for lunch.
Yeah.
But lunch in their philosophy was like 2-3 pints of beer and perhaps 2 little triangles like sandwiches, that was it.
Yeah.
So virtually,
We're talking about large pints, right?
Of course.
I imagine, yeah.
half a liter.
Yeah, of course.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Large pints. And there was a rumor regarding the Lloyd's, the famous Lloyd's Insurance Corporation and also the building in London, that on the very top floor, there is a library, and then many insurance brokers go there after lunch to have a nap. And I really couldn't believe it.
Makes sense.
I couldn't believe it, but then I checked it out, and it was true.
Uh-huh.
They were just, recovering there for another, let's say, 2 hours of working in the afternoon and another couple of pints before they leave, that they usually go by train home and so on.
Yeah.
So, but not only in London. Also, whenever we received guests here in Slovenia, we were expected, at that time I was already a member of the board of management, and each member of the board had his own company car, which you could use 24 hours. But of course, it was meant also for taking clients from the airport to the hotels and then to the restaurants and so on. I think that my record is that I had 2 lunches and 2 dinners in one day.
Oh, fuck.
Because I had so many clients, and it would be impolite, just to go, okay, you go ahead, you eat and you drink, and I'll just have a salad and so on. Whereas nowadays, I think that's almost normal. Well, it depends what kind of clients from which countries you receive, right?
Yeah.
But in our case, of course, I was expected not only to eat, but also to drink.
Yeah.
So nobody would be complaining about me driving them back to the hotel and so on.
Yeah. You told me you got even a reputation of being a very good drunk driver, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, it happens not once that CEO of our company would ask me to drive because he had too much to drink,
But you had the same probably, right?
Even more probably.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, they try to, especially foreign guests, older guests, they tried to test me, how much I could drink.
Yeah.
And not to mention later on guests coming from Far East countries like Japan or South Korea and so on, they like drink a lot as well.
Yeah.
And of course, it was not that difficult to beat them. So, but yes, it was still funny, and unfortunately it's not. So, and then of course, when the political career happened to me virtually overnight.
Yeah.
Because after being 10 years in business, and I already decided, to take it slower. So we decided...
With alcohol?
No, with my career.
Yeah,
Not yet with
okay.
alcohol. Well, occasionally then, of course, my wife, your mom, would mention something,
Uh-huh.
that it's a bit too much.
Okay.
And for example, and perhaps you can remember that already from your childhood, that I would usually come home 9-10 o'clock in the evening, usually well dressed, white shirt, tie, and so on.
Yeah.
And
For me, it was actually...
And I would... Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
yes.
it was like watching a movie, because you're always coming late, dressed really nicely, kind of like a top shot from a company, and then sitting on the couch and having a
single malt, yes.
Yeah.
Or Jack Daniels on the rocks.
Exactly,
that was my favorite drink, yes. As a matter of fact, usually it was served by my wife,
yeah.
which she felt sorry afterwards. I mean, many years afterwards.
Yeah, but I remember that. Yeah, she was also serving you. Yeah.
Yes, that was kind of a treat, that I can get relaxed, talk to your children, to your wife, and really it helps.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I could sleep and then all over again the next morning. And then, as I said, we already decided to move from Ljubljana, which is the capital of Slovenia, to the coastal side. And this is the area my wife originally comes from. So it was better for the kids and everything. And I decided to leave the company, or at the beginning to work for the reinsurance company only part-time. And I accepted the full-time position, tenure, at the university.
Okay.
So this is the time when I became really a full-time professor, and that was 2004. And then overnight, the invitation came by then Prime Minister to become a Minister of Transportation of the Slovenian government. And then again, it was like not really a lifetime opportunity, but I really, at that time, I felt it as my civic duty, because I was already writing articles. I never belonged to any political party, not even in the past, because most of my peers, and not to mention parents, were all members of the Communist Party in the former times, including Esther, my wife, your mother. I didn't. So I really, I was using my knowledge from Canada, which was very much international. So I would always mention and even put it down when I felt that something was wrong.
Yeah.
And I didn't really take care whether a certain policy was adopted by left or right and so on. So that's probably, I became quite attractive to various politicians.
Yeah.
So this is how I became a politician. Minister. Well, I never was really a politician, but I had to be. And then afterwards, because the elections were coming, and completely unexpectedly, the party I was working for, I still didn't belong to these liberal Democrats, lost at the elections. So, but I was elected as a new MP to the Slovenian parliament. And then, as I mentioned kindly before, I became also vice president. So instead of being Minister of Transportation 4 years, I was a Minister of Transportation less than 1 year, and then 4 years a member of the parliament, which I really never expected to become, in my opinion. And then I changed it. I thought that this is a very boring job for elder people and so on. But what I didn't know is that, again, lots of booze was involved in this area. Because when you are a member of the parliament, there is lots of free time. You're waiting for another session. Let's say you are in a parliamentary session for half an hour, 2 hours. Then there is a break. And then you wait for the voting, and so on and so forth. And again, what else to do? But you're invited by different people to their offices,
Yeah. Were you drinking more when you were Minister of Transportation, or after?
No. Well, when I was a minister, I really didn't have time.
You didn't have time.
God forbid that I would be acting, in a drunk,
inappropriate way.
Inappropriate way. Yes, and that was also a generation which was using only this drug. Mm-hmm. So the drug called alcohol. Not to my knowledge. Perhaps maybe some friends, some people had a smoke and so on, but I think that no cocaine, heroin, or no other serious stuff was involved.
Yeah,
which became quite different afterwards. Maybe 10, 15 years ago. But we were more or less all drinkers. And it happened to me once or twice that media noticed that.
That you're drinking a lot?
Yes.
Really?
Yes, it happened to me at least on one occasion. I remember.
I didn't know that.
Yes, I read in one of these yellow pages, of course.
Yeah, of course.
That, for example, it was we met the former Minister of Transportation again in a very good mood, for example.
Okay.
And this very good mood, everybody knew that it was related to
course.
my drinking. And that maybe, there was some funny things when I was a Minister of Transportation, but thanks God that my wife was present. We went to this famous festival in Porto Roche, Melodia Morja in Sonca. And then I met many people, many musicians and other people who were congratulating me because I was appointed as minister, let's say, in late April. And this festival took place in June or maybe July.
Yeah.
And during the break, of course, everybody was having a beer from plastic glasses. I don't know, plastic, even I don't know if you can call a plastic glass because it's not a glass. Is there another
plastic cup?
Exactly, plastic cup. So next day, or in 2 days, there was a picture of mine in one of not that yellow newspapers, half a page. It was actually a good picture with me, sipping this beer from a plastic cup, and says, among other VIPs, we also met a new Minister of Transportation drinking beer from plastic cups. Cups, plural. Yeah. I had only one single beer. So thanks God I had a good witness, my wife. So, but that was more like a funny thing, Actually, it contributed to my popularity, I guess. It was not that serious. But then the problem really started. If I'm talking too long, please.
No, go ahead.
Tell me, because we are coming to the crucial
point. It's nice to have
point.
the whole timeline, let's say.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when I quit politics, that was towards the end of 2008, I had opportunity to run again for a parliament and perhaps to be again appointed as a minister. But it was a family decision that it was enough. Thanks God that my job was waiting at the faculty at the university. But I remember, because that was at the end of, towards the end, I think it is in October, and the new elections, November. So I really started with my lectures again sometime in late February or March. So I was staying at home, waiting, recovering. Intentionally, I use this expression, recovering, because it seems on the first sight illogical that somebody would really miss politics, because it was also predominantly full of bad things. For example, media was writing not only against me, but also against my wife, who is one of the best judges in her area, and so on. Thanks God, nothing against children. So it was really painful.
Yeah.
So maybe some people would be surprised how on earth you would miss politics, but you miss it. You miss the stage. You miss the lights. You miss being mentioned almost every day, or not every day, in most of the media.
And if I might add to this, I still remember, I don't know, I was maybe like 15 or 16, so I've already started drinking a bit, right? Mm-hmm. I still remember that you told me that to this day, still the attention that you received from the media during politics was way of a stronger drug than the actual alcohol.
Yes.
And that to me was it made a big impact. I was like, oh, fuck, like, this must be really, really bad.
I think it was Henry Kissinger who used to say that I'm trying to imitate him. Said,
You're paraphrasing, yeah.
He said with his accent, yes, talking to somebody, I think to the media, said, but the strongest aphrodisiac is the power.
Is the power. Yeah.
Because I think that one of the questions was, how come that he's not exactly the most handsome man and so on. I don't know if you picture him with his glasses and so on. Yeah. He was a very popular figure. He was a chief advisor to President Nixon. And even afterwards, even nowadays, I think he's still alive, probably somewhere in his late 90s. But he was so charismatic because of his mind, extremely intelligent person. He used to be professor at Harvard and so on. And the whole charisma.
Yeah.
And that was really in politics, the power. In Slovenia, it's a little power comparing to other countries, but it still is. When you're a minister, everybody treats you differently.
You're a big fish in a small pond.
Exactly.
But you're still a big fish, right?
So I was suddenly at home reading, and I remember you actually once asking me, and that was also very, very painful. You asked me, Dad, are we going to survive now when you are jobless? Because you thought that I don't have a job anymore.
It seemed like it,
Yeah, but I was just, waiting. I didn't shave, It was like in these bad movies, And
you were home a lot,
Yes, alone. And I remember myself that was probably the first time, and most likely, that occasionally, not every morning, but I started ringing on my own in the morning.
In the morning. Two big red flags, I would say.
Yes. Yeah. Either to forget or to remember.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Because after 2 drinks, again, and I was looking through the photos and perhaps call somebody, from the politics, from the old career and so on. And that was becoming dangerous. And then really escalated. And I was trying to, pick up my shit, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I got more and more reminded by my wife, my love of my life, I should say, that I'm exaggerating. Sometimes she would be told by her parents, because we live quite close, and they have a wine cellar. And actually, I thought that they didn't notice, but for example, usually I would have lunch at their place, still have. And before lunch, I would go there to have a drink or two. And even after lunch. And
before
so on.
saying even hi.
Yes, before even say hi. And then they notice that, So, and then, then, of course, and perhaps we will touch upon that later on.
Yeah.
Of course, the whole situation was taking a different direction towards the end, but the end was still far, far away.
Yeah, it's very interesting to hear this story. And, I feel like if we compare our stories, kinda, as a father and a son, I can see really a lot of similarities, especially in the younger days, right? I think we both drank for the same reasons in high school and during student years. The only thing is that I think in student years, and that was already from the get-go, my drinking became way more severe in terms of we would get completely drunk at least 3 times per week, right? And that escalated. And that escalated then also when I started moving and living abroad, right?
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, sure.
And I'm not sure whether, we discussed that before, but it will be, again, quite, original. Did I in any way contribute to your drinking, because I know that, and I'm happy that I was your role model, and, in most cases or circumstances, that's a good one.
Yeah.
It's a good thing to be, but not regarding the drinking, because you said before that I really was like a movie actor, or like you saw somebody, a successful man, excuse me, coming home well dressed, and then have a scotch or two and so on. Was that, maybe subconsciously also one of the reasons that you thought, oh, it's not only that it's nothing wrong with it, it's part of becoming a man, a successful man?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I'm going to give you a bit of a longer answer.
Please.
So obviously, as I mentioned in the beginning when I gave an introduction to yourself, I really meant it when I said that you are my role model and my hero. And especially when I was growing up as a little kid, I wanted to be you. I wanted to become like you, right? And
it's so nice to hear, But
I think
if you forget about alcohol,
yeah, exactly. But now, if you look back, the story how we were both shy in high school, but then alcohol helped us to be social, to talk to girls, to be someone in society amongst your peers. And then also guitar. I'm a big guitar player and singer.
Much better than I am.
I can also say, like, I definitely started playing guitar because of you. I think you never pushed me to have such amazing grades that I had in school. But I think subconsciously, I wanted to be like you. And then I had the same period in high school where I was rebellious against like you.
Thanks God you never run out
of the home. Yeah. And then during student years, since age 21, I'm living abroad, still living for the past 8 years. You also showed me that with your PhD in Montreal that I can actually study abroad, and this is something I did. So when it comes back to drinking, I think, of course, you played a part of it, but everything played a part of it. Like the whole society. And, when people ask me, oh, but why did you start drinking and why did your drinking become so severe? I don't think we can have several reasons, but I don't think we will ever know the actual true reason. Because, like, if I discuss let's say my traumas and my problems, and everyone has trauma, everyone has problems, even if you think that you had a perfect childhood like I thought, it's not so easy to find answers to questions like this, right? And I mean, then there were also things that, and this is a true story. And I remember when you said that, because one time I asked you, like, Dad, like, fuck, these hangovers are getting bad. Like, what is like the best hangover cure, right? And you were like, Ben, sorry.
Did I tell you the oldest man is
you did, yeah. You were like, Ben, I shouldn't be saying this, but actually the best hangover cure is beer. If you have one beer, you'll be fine. And I remember I was like 18 or something, and I was like, fucking hell, like, I can't. And I didn't try it. And then I remember, I think I was like 21 living in UK. But that was also like a bit, I was like feeling very lonely, etc. One day I was hungover and I tried it and it helped like massively. But again, this was waking up in the morning. So drinking in the morning, drinking alone, and drinking first thing after being hungover, when normally people are like, don't give me alcohol, right? But then just to give you a bit of to distribute, let's say, the guilt, which I don't blame you for anything, but like, I mean, this was also very influenced by the music I listened to, right? Like I was really, and I still am, I was really into The Doors. And Jim Morrison in one of the songs, Roadhouse Blues, one of his lines is like, well, I woke up this morning and I got myself a beer. Yeah, and you listen to this, it's a rock and roll song, and you are drinking beer in the morning and you feel like, fuck, I'm like fucking awesome, So yeah,
And
now,
you forget how young he was when he died. You know?
yeah, he was 27. I'm 28 now.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Like I could have.
And how many musicians died because of the abuse of alcohol or drugs or everything, you know, when they were around 27, I
Yeah,
guess.
but these were all my role models. So
Yes,
all
I
the
know.
rock and roll
Mine
music
too, more or
I
less,
listened to, they were all
Metallica
dead.
or Alcoholica, you know.
Alcoholica, exactly.
Alcoholica.
Or yeah, look, Kurt Cobain. He shot himself because of heroin. Allegedly shot himself.
You know, one of my role models, Bob Dylan. You remember the concert I took you to? He could hardly play. So drunk he was, about like 15
or maybe
years.
something else as well. Who knows?
Yeah,
right?
so yeah, that's right. But I was so disappointed because really,
I remember.
we couldn't
Horrible.
we couldn't recognize any of his songs.
I remember when he played like a Rolling Stone,
Yeah.
one of his most famous songs. After like 2 minutes, we were like, "Oh, this is like a
is
Rolling
yeah,
Stone,
yeah,
right?" Yeah.
Yes, because he could hardly stand on the stage.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, but you know, one thing that I do remember is, I cherish these moments. But many times you would come home and you would just come to my room, lie on my bed with a drink, and then I would just play songs and sing to you. And you know, this is something, again, I think this is one of the reasons that I started singing also afterwards, because you gave me that kind of admiration. So
it's interesting because now I remember that I had some sort of a similar relationship to my grandfather. You know, the one I was mentioning before.
Yeah.
Because usually when he was having a drink, he was, at least towards myself, in a wonderful mood.
yeah,
He would be talking to me. He would be telling me some stories when he was a partisan, you know, during the Second World War, about, you know, how he survived on many occasions and so on. For example, he would be wearing one of the bullets at his car keys, which was meant to kill him. It was in his pistol. And he was that close to get caught by the Nazis, you know, by the Germans. So he decided to kill himself before, because he knew that he would be tortured and so on.
Yeah.
And thanks God they didn't find him. You know, so all these stories, and he would be drinking. I still remember his famous drink was Enzian. It's quite bitter, you know. It doesn't really, well, now everything which is alcoholic, at least to us, it's bitter. But even, for example, he was a heavy smoker. And even nowadays, for example, okay, this is to much lesser extent if you go in a public building that you would smell smoke in elevators and so on. In my days, that was normal.
Yeah.
But I never felt disgusted because of that. Because smoke was relaxing to me. Probably reminding me of my grandpa. And by the way, both of grandparents, almost all grandparents smoked, with one exception, with my grandmother, on my father's side. Otherwise, they were smoking all and drinking only my grandfather on my mother's side. But it was, again, a kind of a nice memory.
Yeah, and just one thing, because obviously I assume you asked me the question about if you contributed to my drinking, because maybe sometimes you might feel partially guilty for that.
To receive redemption from you.
Yeah.
Publicly.
No, but I can publicly say, and this is going to be very controversial what I'm going to say, but if I even say so that you partially contributed to my drinking, you should be super proud of that. Why? Because I feel personally that this is the single best thing that has happened in my life. Because having to
go through this experience.
Yes, it was like the most horrible experience of my life. But being now on the other side, I wouldn't be the man I am right now at 28.
Yes, 28, yes.
Without having this experience. I would be a complete loser in my eyes. I would be a very soft individual. So I'm very grateful for that experience. But yeah, we can touch that a bit later. So coming back to your story, I have a question. So actually, in one of the interviews, Ben Affleck, another Ben,
Yes.
he's a bit more famous than me, right?
A little bit.
Yeah.
But I like you more. Much
Oh,
more.
thank you. Then that's better. Yeah. No, so Ben Affleck said...
he's a good actor. Okay, so
Yeah, but Ben Affleck said something that really touched me because obviously I listened to a lot of things about alcohol addiction and addiction in general. And he said, and I'm paraphrasing, that cure for addiction is suffering. You suffer enough that something inside of you says, I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering, what was that moment for you? What was that moment that you said, okay, enough of suffering, I'm done?
Well, as I said before, I became more and more reminded by the love of my life, my wife, that I should cut down my drinking, that it is not good if we have a glass of wine, during our dinner, but then I would finish the rest of the bottle instead of leave it for the next day and the next day.
Yeah.
Not to mention that I would have, a glass of scotch before and maybe afterwards and so on. But somehow she encouraged me to seek help to control my drinking.
Okay.
Which later on it turned out that it's virtually impossible, at least in my case and in your case and in most cases. And all the experts would confirm that, that if you have a problem with alcohol, you have to quit. That's the only way to control it.
Completely,
yes, 100%. But then, of course, I seek some help. I went to a few therapists and I'm grateful for that because I learned various techniques, for example, self-hypnosis and tapping and some other stuff. Okay, meditation came afterwards. Mm-hmm. But, and it really had to a certain point. For example, I even tried not to drink for a certain period of time because somewhere I read that how to test whether or not you are an alcoholic. If you survive without having a sip for 3 months, I don't know who invented that, you're not an alcoholic. And I tried that and I succeeded at least twice, if not thrice.
So you had these alcohol-free challenges.
Yes, and I remember once it was free. It was starting somewhere after Christmas, and then it was 3 months, and it was premeditated. That the very last day would be one day before I left for Malta, a beautiful Mediterranean island where I have been lecturing at the International Maritime Law Institute for years now. And usually it would be a week on my own, lecturing there, and also drinking without any supervision. Because quite a few friends there
By supervision,
were also
you mean my mom, right?
Exactly, your mom, yes. Exactly. So I remember myself at the beginning that I would, send kind of messages or even some photos, and she would immediately know that I had too
much to drink.
So I stopped doing that, So I remember myself, it was the last day, still in Slovenia, and then in the next morning I had to drive to, I think it was, probably Treviso airport in Italy to have my flight. I think even the flight was from Treviso or Ronchi to Rome, and then from Rome to Malta. And at that time in Rome, I could use one of the business travel lounges. Not that I would be traveling business, but I had a special credit card which allowed me, to enter that.
Yeah.
And I'm telling that on purpose because, then you have a free access to alcohol again.
Yeah.
In those. So, but I remember coming to the airport next morning at 10 o'clock, I guess. And the first thing I did, but I knew that weeks ahead, that I would go, to this.
You would fantasize about it, right?
Yes, I was actually fantasizing, dreaming about it.
Yeah.
And I had, I think, at 10 o'clock, instead of coffee, or maybe I even had coffee afterwards, but I started with I think triple Jack Daniels on the ice, triple,
of course.
or 2 doubles,
Yeah.
And then next thing, I bought a nice bottle of, I still remember, I don't know if I say it publicly, but single malt Lafroig, one of my favorite scotch at that time. And the bottle, for the next week or so, it lasted maybe 2 days in Malta, and that was it. So the only, time I was really sober was when I was lecturing, but twice a day. But afterwards, after 5 o'clock, so okay, at least that. I started drinking after 5 o'clock in Malta.
Yeah.
And I realized, no, it doesn't help if I drink less. And then, of course, occasionally we had quite a strong, vivid conversation with your mom about my drinking. And this guilt, because she's really the person I love the most, of course, together with you kids. By the way, we also have, as I mentioned before, Gaia, Anna, your sister, older, my first child born in Canada. So this is not a phrase. I would really virtually do everything for you kids and for my wife, for our family, really everything. Save, kill, whatever, just name it.
Yeah.
So, by saying that, I knew that even before. I mean, if nothing else, if not in the name of my health, in the name of my future, I should do that for you guys, not to keep happy my wife all the time, not nagging, and complaining about my drinking, but just, to have this happiness she deserves, and also you. And perhaps I should mention that, of course, another person who was always allergic on my drinking was my daughter, your sister.
Yeah, not this guy.
Not this guy, yes. So I remember it was breakfast. It was one of my hangovers because I had it too much the evening before. And I was just about to go perhaps next week to a business trip with my colleagues from the faculty to Sarajevo in Bosnia.
Okay.
And I solemnly declared to Esther, to my wife, said, on June 28th, 2017, symbolically, I will kill the last alcoholic drink in Sarajevo. But my killing will not start the war as it did, the First World War. People will probably remember, but it will start peace.
Yeah.
And this is it. I even didn't have an alcoholic, chewing gum or whatever, the candy, since ever. It's 5 years and a half now. I'm very proud of it. It's probably okay. I shouldn't really say that was the best thing I ever did in my life. The best thing was definitely, first of all, to meet mom and to get married with her and to have you, two kids. But the second very best, I guess, was to quit drinking, really. And this is not, at the beginning, perhaps you feel it like your freedom is limited, that you are missing so many things and so on. No, later on, perhaps after half a year, 1 year, just stick to it. Perseverance is it's a crucial part of it. You realize that this is the true freedom.
Yeah,
that you used to be a slave, not even of another person, but of a substance.
Yeah,
which is crazy, but well. So let us hope really that people listening to us will think about it. Many more people have problems with alcohol and other drugs than they think to, But maybe that will be some sort of motivation to rethink their behavior, their way of living.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. And I think it's very hard to admit to yourself that you have a problem with alcohol. I know that for me, it was I needed a lot of time to admit that to myself. But I think it was...
Yeah, what was your reaction when I told you? I don't remember quite vividly when I told you that I stopped drinking for good. Did you believe me? Or you said, okay, it's just a temporary thing again?
You know, to be honest, for a lot of these things, and I don't know, maybe this is like my subconscious putting
You don't
it down.
remember, yes.
I don't remember. I mean, on the other hand, I'm not surprised given the fact how much alcohol I consumed. So it's quite scientifically proven that alcohol hurts your short-term memory.
Yeah, true.
But no, I think... I don't know. I think at the beginning, and it was the same for my best friend Pero. I was not sure that I believe you because you're just we also drank many times together,
and you really didn't care, right?
I mean, the thing is, for me, looking back, alcohol never. Your drinking never influenced me so negatively on a short-term basis. Like you were my buddy. Like every time I got too drunk and our mom was kind of complaining also for me, you were my the person that told her, no, it's normal. I was like that as well. And also many times when we were alone, we would have a drink, we would listen to music, we would play guitar, we would discuss. It was,
our time together, yes.
Yeah, I was not that open at that time. So when I had a few drinks and yourself as well, we bonded a bit more, right?
True.
Yeah, so for me, maybe from a egoistical perspective, when you stop drinking, for me it was like, fuck, I will
and you know
not
that this is
drink
quite an often thing.
Yeah.
I read some articles that, of course, for example, somebody would quit drinking and he would be having problems with his girlfriend, for example.
Yeah, of course.
Because, and at the beginning, why my wife, wanted me to just control drinking.
Yeah.
Because we also had many beautiful moments together with a little bit of alcohol.
Exactly.
It was a part of romance.
Yeah.
To have a glass or two of wine, sparkling wine, even something stronger. I remember when we went, to the Caribbeans, to Dominican Republic, we had this famous rum and so on.
Yeah.
So, yes, that was part of our beautiful time together.
Yeah. So a lot of memories were made.
Until I started exceeding, this.
Yeah.
And the problem was that I was allegedly, and I admit it, different person when I had too much to drink. But funny enough, I was mostly different person at home. And I also know why. Because I had this terrible feeling, a bad feeling that, again, I had too much to drink and so on, even before when I was coming home. So I was probably coming home in a defensive position, just, waiting that somebody would say anything. Of course, not you, because you would never say anything, but either mommy or my daughter,
Yeah.
And they usually did. And then that was a good start to, not really to fight, to fight verbally.
Yeah.
So I was told that I was never aggressive, never touched anybody in my life. But of course, verbally, I could be aggressive. For example, one of my favorite statements, when I couldn't actually use any argument, I would say, yes, but who is making most of the money, and don't tell me that. I've got PhD, from the famous university in Canada. I'm really not, I'm so ashamed of that.
Yeah.
But I have to admit it, even publicly, because that's the only way to do it, to come clean,
Yeah, I agree. And but it's also quite funny that I think a lot of my drinking and also maybe your drinking as well was driven a lot by insecurities. But then
yes.
at the same time, there was like a mix of superiority complex. Like when I would be drinking, I would be thinking I'm like the greatest person that has ever lived, right?
Yes,
I'm Jesus. But again, I was driven by my insecurities. So these two together is such a bad combination.
To give you one of the examples, which is terrible, but nevertheless, I have to tell this. I have to be truthful,
Yeah.
That usually, let's say, I would be invited to a wedding or any other similar public event, and there would be a band playing something. After a few drinks, if somebody else wouldn't be mentioning that I'm also kind of a musician,
Yeah.
I usually describe myself that I'm frustrated musician because, I always wanted to become one. And as you mentioned, I play guitar probably relatively good, and I can also sing, but I never really had a real band. Okay, I was involved in a few gigs and so on, but nothing serious. But then, of course, I couldn't wait to be invited on the stage. And I would be playing usually some easy stuff like Knock, Knock on the Heaven's Door by Bob Dylan, or I don't know, Okay, Yesterday, it was even more difficult. But some things which I really could have played quite well in the middle of the night, sober, of course.
Yeah.
And then, unfortunately, somebody started recording that.
Okay.
And even you happened to see at least one video of me singing, or even two.
I did.
Oh
yeah.
my gosh! But at that time, of course, everybody was drunk. Everybody thought that I was, the most famous singer, whatever. I had my 5 minutes, or even less, but that was so fake. And there are other similar cases, yes, like that I felt. I remember once, even in Malta, waiting for my first lectures, and there was a terrace, and it was in the middle of winter, but in Malta it's warm and so on. And I thought to myself, looking down, and there was it is some sort of a campus where all the students stay. Say, what about if instead of having my first lecture, I give them a performance? I would be standing here on the terrace and playing guitar and singing, and everybody would be downstairs waiting for me, and they would be applauding me and saying, "Wow, what a wonderful
superiority
professor."
complex. Yeah.
Superiority, yes.
Yeah. Same here. I think my subconscious, because I was listening to so much like rock and roll music, I was identifying as like a rock star or something. I wanted that lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
But it's so self-destructive. So being self-destructive is part of it. And I'm glad this is over with. But at the same time, like you said, it's one of the best things that ever happened that you stopped drinking. I can say the same as I mentioned before.
Almost 2 years in your case, if I remember correctly?
For me, it's more than 2 years now.
More than 2 years. I'm so proud of you, really.
Thank you very much.
Do we have time that you explain shortly, or you do that in different episodes? Yes. How you actually, what was your turning point? I know the story briefly, but...
I can explain it quickly.
Yes, because I think it's very important.
And then I have still a few questions for you. For me, the pain of drinking started quite early. So the pain, the suffering that I experienced started already at age 19. So this is quite early, given the fact that I started drinking when I was like 15, 16, right? So already at that time, I was drinking, now that I'm looking back, because of the pain and some issues that I had. I don't know, too much stress or being insecurity, being deeply in love with someone and she's not giving me the love back. And this was just like it was gradual and it progressed. And then, when I was like 21, 22, it was the first time I was drinking, sometimes alone in the morning. But that was not a very common thing. But then I think my peak was when I moved to Amsterdam. I was aged 24. And in Amsterdam, it was quite a common thing that I would drink 4 to 3 times per week. And when I say drink, it was like very heavy drinking.
Getting drunk, yes.
Getting drunk. And normally my whole weekend was just drinking, nothing else. A lot of times socially, but there were a lot of weekends actually when I just didn't feel the need to socialize. So from Friday, we would still go to after work drinks and we would get drunk, etc. But then like Saturday, Sunday, starting in the morning, the whole weekend drinking by myself. Also like calling friends to Slovenia, etc., who knew a bit about my problems. But no one...
I remember some of your calls, yes.
Yeah, but no
one
knew.
You usually tell me that you love me.
Yeah, that was actually one good thing. That
it was a good thing.
Sometimes when I got drunk, I got emotional, which I would never do elsewhere, right? But all of this pain was not enough. And then just before COVID happened, or actually during COVID, in March 2020, I lost my job. I moved back home.
I remember.
So living abroad for, 5-6 years and then moving back home, I was like, fuck, I lost my job. Now I have to get a new job and it's a very difficult time. And it was like, okay, until I get my new job, I will not touch alcohol. So I still remember for 87 days, so almost 90 days, I didn't touch alcohol. I found a new job in which I'm still in. And, I proved myself that I don't have a problem, but that was actually not the case. And after I got the job, I started drinking again very heavily during that summer. And I remember you were telling me, but man, you were doing so great before. What happened? But I didn't care. And at that time, your words helped immensely. But I think the trigger really was that my best friend who stopped drinking one year before me, and he's 4 years older, he called me once and he told me that if I continue with this behavior, he will not hang out with me anymore. And that was so painful to me because for 1 week he didn't speak to me.
He's really a good friend.
Yeah, exactly.
It takes a courage to do that.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, because he was about to lose me. I was about to lose him as well by saying this. And thank God, I can really say thank God for that something in me clicked. And I was like, no, like my friendship with my dear friend is way more important than this fucking poison. So
like my relationship to my family.
Exactly,
to you guys.
Exactly. So then for 2 months, I actually, because I moved to Milano, so I was able to start a new life. And for 2 months, I actually was able to drink normally. And I could have like 1 or 2 drinks, go to famous Milano aperitivo, and everything was great. And then one time after 2 months, I got completely fucked up, completely drunk. I woke up the next day. I realized that no, I will never ever beat this demon. I actually have to stop drinking alcohol. And then I read one book from Alan Carr called Easy Way to Stop Drinking Right Now.
Excellent book.
I was like, fuck it, let's try it, let's drink it. But I was already determined that I need to quit. But I was like, okay, this book will give me some information I needed. And it really helped. And in around 1 week, I had my last drink. I still remember one drink of fucking disgusting cheap-ass vodka.
You killed the last one.
Yes. I killed the last one.
Not in Sarajevo, though.
Yeah. And 21st of October, 2020, so more than 2 years ago was that moment. And that's my story in a nutshell. And now just being considerate of time, I just want to ask you potentially a last question, but let's see. Let's keep it on for the next 10 minutes.
Time flies, unbelievable.
Yeah,
before
time
we thought,
flies,
it's too much.
It's almost 1 hour and a half already. But what would happen right now if we drink one beer?
nothing if it is non-alcoholic.
Okay, but let's say...
what happened to me, I said I didn't have a small sip or a candy with alcohol since I stopped drinking 5 years and a half again. It happened to me maybe a few months ago. We went for pizza. I think you were not there. It was just mom and Gaia and her boyfriend, Matic.
Yeah.
I think he got some sort of vouchers or something like that,
Yeah.
So, we had Heineken Zero. And then after the first one, he suggested, because he doesn't drink alcohol as well, okay, why don't we have another one? I said, yeah, so why not? Because it's a small one and it is zero. And mistakenly, the waitress brought us the real one. I mean, the real one, the ugly one. And I remember myself, I had a sip. And my psychological and also physiological reaction was that something was terribly wrong with this beer.
Okay.
It was kind of rotten, out of order, whatever I would say, I probably, had it. I mean, it was just a small sip, but I almost threw up. And then I took a look at the bottle, see, no zeros, It was just a normal beer. And I got really pissed off, and then also Matic says, no, we didn't order this, and he complained and so on. So this is probably my answer, I wouldn't be able to have the whole beer. Mm-hmm. No need so. But let's say that somebody would force us or whatever. And this is such a good feeling that, now, and I think it's the same with you, we are so far beyond this craving, and no doubts about our willpower. Can we really, continue without drinks and to be completely abstain from alcohol? No. Now it's not only our willpower; it's also our body. Just another proof that we are a whole.
Yeah.
The Latin expression is mens sana in corpore sano, healthy mind in healthy body. And this is kind of a philosophy of Chinese medicine and Indian medicine. I think it's the only medicine which still separate your mind and body is the Western one.
Yeah.
So to me, it's just it's a wonderful thing that the body, that my entities and your entity as well, the wholeness is functioning this way. But of course, we had to fight for that. It doesn't come, perhaps, to tell the real truth without any beautiful arrangement, as they would say in French. It is not easy.
Yeah.
But once you decide to stop drinking, and once you commit to not only to not drinking, but to somebody who you really love the most, could be your best friend, could be your love, your partner, your wife, whoever, children, and so on, then it becomes easier. Mm-hmm. Because you know that to start drinking again, you wouldn't disappoint it only yourself, you would disappoint your dear ones. And in my case, it helped a lot. Then, of course, you use numerous techniques you will probably talk about later on in your program and so on. But yes, to me, the key points were probably this. And remind you, I mean, even in this case, love is what I call spiritus agens, spiritual movement of everything. Without love, everything is hopeless, it's useless, it's empty. Yes, I think that love was very important for me to stop using this drug.
No, I think it's really nice actually that you had this experience with non-intentionally drinking a bit of beer and that your body reacted that way.
Yes.
Because
did you have a similar experience in the past 2 years? Or?
No, I have not. But, you know, I still go out. I still socialize a lot with drinkers. There are a lot of my really good friends all drink alcohol, and I really have zero problems hanging out with them. But they're also very nice drunks, let's say, when they drink. It's not, they're not annoying like I was. But yeah, it never even occurred to me for the past, let's say, 1 year and a half that I would do anything. Maybe at the beginning it was a bit tougher, but not in that way. And I mean, yeah, fuck it. I'm gonna ask you something like very dark to close off this podcast. But you mentioned love, right? But let's say in a very dark scenario that, and obviously I never hope this to happen, but that myself, my mom, your wife, and my sister, we all get killed. We all get killed.
Oh, don't ask me that.
Or we die, not killed, because then you would maybe feel a sense of revenge, but we die in a car accident. Are you confident that you would still not touch alcohol, or you cannot imagine the situation of having so much pain right now?
Yeah, well, I mean, just start shivering, because it's really a dark question. But I'll try to be professional and to answer it sincerely. Of course, I cannot be sure, because such a tragedy, I cannot be sure for a while, but afterwards, I'm pretty sure whenever I would collect myself to be so rational and sober again, and also emotional, to think how much you would be disappointed, guys, that I'm doing that again. I would quit again.
Yeah.
So let us hope that I will be the first one to go to test you or somebody else. But it's a fair question, because I asked myself quite often.
Yeah, and the thing is, I feel like due to my experience with alcohol addiction, because it was so hard to experience it and to actually overcome it, I feel like right now I'm ready for anything in life. Whatever shit will happen to me right now, I'm gonna handle it just because of that experience. But at the same time, if we're talking about family and someone dying like this, I feel like I can never be too sure. But I really hope that I don't need to experience that at all. I mean, of course, dying is a natural process of life, so sooner or later someone will die, right? But it's just dealing in a mature way. And I really like what you said right now, thinking about believing that if the soul of this person sees me right now,
yes,
he or she would be super
which I believe,
disappointed.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's actually then a nice thought to have.
But remind you guys, who are listening to us, this is some of the methods your tricky mind will use on you. I remember myself after a few months, after a year or so, how my ego is that, started playing tricks with me.
Yeah.
If this happens to you, you will be excused to have a drink and so on.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. I said, come on. I was just, how can you even think about that, Or I don't know, if I discover that I have a fatal cancer or something like that, that I will die in a few months and so on.
Yeah.
Then I will be entitled to have my drink. Crazy.
Yeah, crazy.
But once you recognize it, said, it's like this, our little rabbit, but we don't have time to tell jokes about this. But it's, no, go back to your hole,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, great.
Oh, thank you.
I think that's
Thank
the end
you.
of the podcast. Thank you so much for coming here.
Really, I'm so proud, man. I love you so much.
Yeah, I love you
and
too.
I wish you all the best with your endeavors and everything. And I'm so happy that I can be of help, in this case, not to you, but perhaps to at least one person, as you mentioned before, who would listen to us or already had, think about it and said, okay, this is it. Today, I'm going to kill the last sip of alcohol. I'm going to kill the worst demon.
Yeah. And it's also, I think it's important to spread this message of the fact that you don't need to be living under the bridge to be an alcoholic. You can have a very normal life.
Successful
you can
career.
Be very successful, even though inside you're like rotting, basically. But when people see you, you think like, oh, look at this guy. He achieved so much, blah, 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 blah. But
yeah, he doesn't look like an alcoholic.
Exactly,
you know?
yeah.
He's just like me.
Exactly,
yes,
yeah.
That's the point, because you're also an alcoholic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, and as I said in the beginning, and as you said right now, if this touches at least one person, then I think our goal is accomplished. So again, thank you so much.
Thank you. Let us hope for the best. Yes.
Yeah, let's hope for the best. Take care.
You too.